Hey, Canucks fans, the Canucks lost to the Wild. Bieksa addressed Chara'S comments. We have new look lines at practice, and it's time to answer all of your questions. I'm Canuck Clay, and this is my Canucks Take on One Take. It's Clay's Canucks commentary for Sunday, December the 11th. If you're new, here's what you should do. Hit the subscribe button now for daily Canucks insight that's positive, timely, and trustworthy. I have a very packed video today, so I'm going to get right into it. Tonight, join me 10:30 p.m. for my live stream, giving away a pair of tickets to a future Canucks game. Make sure you join me tonight right here on YouTube at 10:30. I was at last night's game with my family, all excited to see a Canucks win, go to 4 straight wins, and then have to do some sort of crazy dance tonight. I was spared the dance, but I'd much rather be dancing looking like a fool than the Canucks getting shut out at home. I don't want to go into the game too much. We know about JT Miller's horrible giveaway. We know about poor games for a bunch of people. But the one thing I want to say about last night's game is what a wasted opportunity. Calgary lost to Toronto in overtime. So, yeah, they got a point. But basically, and Nashville lost yesterday. So, with a win yesterday, the Canucks would have jumped over Minnesota and then basically be tied with Calgary for the second wildcard spot. Truly in a wildcard spot, truly in a wildcard fight. Now, they're not out of the fight yet, but by losing to Minnesota, now they're 3 behind Minnesota, 3 behind Calgary, or 2 behind Calgary, and it's just a bigger hill to climb. So we're not out of it, but I think you'd agree with me. It was a wasted opportunity. You have to win these games against other teams that you're fighting with for a playoff position, especially on a Saturday night at home when they are a tired team having played the night before. And I think that's the other crazy thing is the Canucks haven't played since Wednesday night, that win in San Jose. Small travel, but you have basically 2 days between games, whereas Minnesota played last night or the night before. So to squander that opportunity, that was the most painful thing, to be outshot 14-4 in the first period. So not all is lost. The season is we still have 54 games ahead of us, but the more and more this team squanders those opportunities, even more difficult to get into the playoffs. So let me know what your thoughts on last night's game. Put it in the comments below. Lots of questions, and let's get into them. And I want to start off by addressing the Kevin Bieksa, Zdeno Chara situation, because it's Elfrin, Hall of Fame member Elfrin's first question. And he says this: what are your thoughts on Chara's accusatory claim about the Canucks supposedly practice lifting the cup? Well, Kevin Bieksa addressed it last night, and he addressed it very swiftly in about 1 minute and 15 seconds on Hockey Night in Canada. And he basically said it was BS. He was disappointed for Chara to even suggest that. And he made 2 main points. Number one, there was so much media coverage around that time, 11 years ago. So the media was covering every single thing that both teams did. So if that was indeed true, that the Canucks were practicing, strategizing how to do their Stanley Cup parade on Boston Bruins home ice, the media would have reported that. They would have ran with it, and there's no way that it wouldn't have been reported on. So Kevin Bieksa's first point was, this is bull, because someone in the media who are always looking for stories, new angles, new drama, someone would have reported it. The second thing he said is, with the leadership in that team, on that team, Sedin's, Luongo, first ballot Hall of Famers, himself, Hamhuis, guys like that, Malhotra, that there's no way that they would let the rest of the team even think about doing something like that. So his point was, with the type of leadership there's no way that would have flown. So for those 2 reasons, I agree with him. I mean, I believe him. And I just think, frankly, you listen to the way Chara kept kind of walking back from I saw to I heard to whatever it may be. And then the fact that 11 years have passed and now the story comes out. So I didn't believe it when I heard it, and even more so after hearing Bieksa speak about it last night. So good on Bieksa. That's not me being a homer. That's not me being biased. It just, you add up the story, and Chara's claims simply didn't make sense. Carol, Hall of Fame member Carol, how are you? I'm great, thanks. Hope you're well as well. My question is, if we win tonight and have a game, 4-game winning streak, who do you think is going to be traded? Okay, so we don't have to talk about that because they didn't win. Who do I think is going to be traded first? I think it's Myers has to go, Garland has to go, and we signed Hughes to a 4-year contract. We actually signed Hughes to a 6-year contract, but if you're talking about maybe Horvat, we'll see. And when it comes to Myers and Garland, Yeah, Myers' contract is more tradable in the summer after he gets paid a big bonus and he's only got 1 year left. So let's see if that happens. And for Garland, yeah, I think between Garland and Besser, you do got to move one of them. And I wouldn't be surprised if either one moves. Besser has the higher price tag, and I actually think Besser might go before Garland if one of those guys has to go. I lie. Thoughts on leveraging Schenn and Kuzmenko's likely demand around the league to move a bad contract, i.e., Canucks asked for right-handed D. Schenn should start with a second and not a first, if not a first. An alternative could be to negotiate for an acquiring team. Likely a contender will want him to also take on, say, Pearson's contract, or same for Kuzmenko with Myers attached. Okay, there's a lot there. Just like how the Coyotes attached Garland's rights to OEL, so we had to take on bad contract if we wanted to get. So yeah, it's a good question. It's hard to picture for you guys to listen to because it's a bunch of names and a bunch of. But you're basically saying Schenn or Kuzmenko will likely be in demand, and then can you attach a bad contract to it? And you use the OEL Garland example. I don't know, although I'm not sure who was on the who was in demand of those two guys. It's interesting. Schenn says he wants to stay here. I think the Canucks are going to try and keep Kuzmenko here. But if you do look at indeed moving one of them, if you try and attach a bad contract to them and save some, obviously saves the salary cap space that goes with it, then what are you getting back in return? I guess that's the point. And you say Schenn could start with a second rounder, if not a first. I don't think you're getting a first for Schenn because we love him here, but on another team, he's only a 6 or 7 D man. Yeah, that's really interesting. I haven't thought about that, and I'm not sure if the Canucks are going to go there because do you actually water down your return by attaching a bad contract? So I think that's the tricky part, and I hear what you're saying, I got to give this one some more thought. Actually, I don't read these before I come on the video just so they're more spontaneous. But this one I do got to think about. But my first reaction is I think they're going to try and keep Schenn and Kuzmenko. But if they can't, is it worth attaching a bad contract to them? When I think it through, I think that waters down what you're going to get back. But maybe I'm missing something. And I'd love to hear your response to my response in the comments down below. Peter says, thoughts on Bruce strangely moving turnover machine Miller back at center when we all know it just doesn't work. Yeah, I'm going to get to I get to the lines right now. The new lines that the Canucks wrote out. And Pettersson was not at practice, but the way that Dries was skating in his spot, it tells me that it was a maintenance day. Hopefully it is, as opposed to PD's out long term. Because if PD's out long term, then I think, or maybe the lines are exactly the same. Who knows? But really, what you had is, as Peter was talking about, Miller was in the middle of Besser and Joshua. So I think they like what they're seeing in Joshua, moving him off the third line, off the fourth line. You had Horvat between Höglander and Garland, and then Dries, i.e. Pettersson, between the two Russians again, which I think is good. I don't think you should ever split them up. And then Aman with Lazar and Studnicka. So the big changes here, Miller in the middle, Joshua gets moved up, and then Pettersson back with the two Russians. So again, Horvat, Garland, Höglander, Miller, Besser, Joshua, Pettersson, Dries, Mikheyev, Kuzmenko, Oman, Lazar, and Studnicka. And on the blue line, it was interesting. It was OEL with Burrows, not with Bear. Hughes and Schenn, Stillman and Myers, and then Dermott and Bear. So if Bear did have a rough game yesterday, maybe they want to bring Kyle Burrows in. But it still looks like Travis Dermott and Ethan Bear might be the extra pairing. Although I'd rather put in Dermott and Bear ahead of Stillman and Myers, quite frankly. So we'll see how that plays out. So thoughts on moving him back to the middle? It's because he hasn't had an even strength goal in 6 weeks. So I think they're looking to get more offense out of JT Miller. Fulham says, have you been watching the World Cup football tournament? Yes, a little bit. I definitely know who's still in it. It's been some exciting matches. A lot of them going in penalties for sure. A lot of good storylines. And what trade destinations do you have for Besser and Horvat? And then Dominic says, what team do you see Besser going to? The rumored teams are Calgary, Islanders, Minnesota, Montreal, Nashville, and Detroit. Okay, for as long as you don't trade them within the division. So I don't want to trade Besser to Calgary. Minnesota's always linked to Besser. I got to figure out, none of those teams are true contenders. You list Calgary, Islanders, Minnesota, Montreal, Nashville, Detroit. None of those are top 3 even in their divisions. So they'll be interesting. I could see any of those teams that have some cap space. For Horvat, I don't know. I really got to think this one through. But he's going to be I see Colorado making a run for him. I see contenders going for Horvat more than Besser, if that makes sense. Because a team's going to say, if we can get Horvat as our 2C for a playoff run, that might be attractive for Horvat. That might be attractive for the Canucks in terms of return. Lazy Husband says, who are you picking to make the Stanley Cup Finals? I'm actually saying Boston and Colorado. Boston is playing very well. They got a really, really balanced team. Colorado, I know they're not even in the wild card spot right now, but they have 5 of their top 6 forwards out. I think they're simply good enough where as long as they make it in the playoffs, they're going to run right through. So I'm going Colorado and Boston in the finals. Tyler says, what are your thoughts on the power play and penalty kill? Power play is fine, except for last night. Last night they were bad. But power play overall, it's good. They're still top 6, top 7 in the league. Too much talent on there not to be good. I don't like how they've given up 6 shorthanded goals. That's really bad, though. So they got to fix that. And for the penalty kill, getting better. They were fine. No, they gave up 1 yesterday. The one thing I don't like about the penalty kill is how they always, and it's Horvat usually, how he's losing a lot of faceoffs. And therefore, it's weird, on the penalty kill only. And then the other team is scoring within 10, 20 seconds of the initial draw. So that's one thing they got to work on. But at least structurally, they're getting a little bit better. Derek says, what would a Boeser trade look like in return? And when should we trade Boeser? Now that the trade deadline or in the offseason? Is it possible Horvat gets traded? I hear that contract talks are not going so well. And what would we get in return for Horvat if we traded him? And if we can't re-sign him, should we trade him at the trade deadline? Okay, there's a lot there as well, Derek. I addressed some of it. We're Boeser. I think anytime between now and the trade deadline, but I think you should look at moving him for Horvat. Also, trade deadline, you're going to get a lot more for Horvat than you are for Boeser. I think Boeser, you might get a draft pick and maybe a player, not a great player. Then for Horvat, you could probably look at getting 2 or 3 assets depending on the team he's going to. Hello, Conga says, do you think the Canucks will make the playoffs at this point? I want them to. I really want them to, but I don't think they will. Not if they're this inconsistent and give up great opportunities. Brian, what's up with the LA Kings asking if Demko is up for trading? I didn't know that. That's news to me, Brian. But I agree. Leave Thatcher the Snatcher alone. He belongs on the Canucks. I hear you, Brian. And finally, Jimmy Hockey says, should the Canucks retire number 1? I talked about this at length about a week and a half ago. I do think Luongo's name should be in the rafters. When I say number 1, Luongo, not McLean. McLean's in the Ring of Honor. Luongo, I think, is a better goalie historically. Did more for this franchise. Not necessarily in the community, but on the ice. And he's a Hall of Famer in the Hockey Hall of Fame. So I do think that Luongo is deserving of a jersey retirement. Wow, Canucks fans, that was a lot. That was almost 13 minutes worth. So thank you for sticking with me. As always, leave a comment down below. I would love to hear your reaction to any of my answers or the game last night or the new look lines the Canucks wrote out or Bieksa's response to Chara. Put it in the comments below. I don't always get to reply, but I do read every single comment that you leave. As well, tonight, 10:30 p.m., Sunday night live stream, giving away a pair of Canucks tickets. I hope you join me. Shout out to my sponsors, Van City Experts Real Estate, Perform and Transform Personal Training Weight Loss. Thank you, legendary Lucas Gates, legendary Justin Credible, legendary Andrew Chang, Hall of Fame and franchise members. And thanks to all of you for continuing to support me on this channel. As always, subscribe if you'd like to, like this video if you'd like to, leave a tip, become a member, upgrade your membership if you'd like to, and definitely leave a comment down below if you'd like to. Stay safe, stay healthy, take care of yourselves and take care of each other. Enjoy your Sunday. See you tonight at 10:30 p.m. God bless, and go Canucks go.